Hello, beautiful ladies, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be answering all of your questions about absolutely anything. Before we get started, I'm going to comment on my makeup before you guys do. I decided to go for a very dewy, glowy look. It was kind of something that I was looking forward to doing today, and I don't know how well it's going to translate on camera. So we'll see. If it doesn't look great, then it is what it is. Over on Instagram and Twitter, I asked you guys just to ask me anything, any of your questions, whatever you guys were thinking, because I thought it would be fun just to see what you guys had questions about. And you guys delivered. There were a ton of questions, so I'm really excited to go through some of those today, and maybe we'll do a part 2 if we decide that there are more questions than I have time for. So let's hop into it. The first question is, biggest musical influences. So I don't know exactly what you mean by musical influences, so I'm just going to tell you a few different things. One is that my dad is a composer and a pianist, and he was the one who really introduced me and my siblings to different kinds of music. We were listening to musicals and opera and classical music throughout our childhoods, so I was introduced to that stuff pretty early, and I would say my dad is my biggest musical influence. But when it comes to the way that I perform and that I sing, I love Maria Callas. I am obsessed with her. I've probably talked about her too much, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop now. She is my biggest inspiration when it comes to singing opera because she put singing and acting just right hand in hand together, and that was such a huge inspiration to me. I love the acting part of singing, and I think just singing to sing is not as interesting. So I love her as a performer. I love her as an inspiration. And another one of my favorite musical influences, which is not actually classical, would be some jazz singers. So Mel Torme, Frank Sinatra, and Ella Fitzgerald. Those three people probably have influenced the way I perform. I'm very comfortable being on stage and making things up on the spot and not feeling totally tied to what's on the page, and that's a very jazz thing to do. My dad is a jazz pianist, so that's probably also from him. But those would probably be my biggest musical influences. The next question is, how did you win your husband over? That was not super difficult. He pursued me at the beginning, and I didn't know if I was interested. So he had to convince me to date him, but that might be good for another video. Let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in my husband and I doing a video all about how we met and our relationship and our wedding and all that stuff. I think that could be kind of fun. The next question is, when did you start showing interest in singing? So I have been singing pretty much my whole life. I found a little yearbook from when I was in preschool, and every kid got a description about what they were like and what their favorite things were to do, and mine said, "We'll always remember Abigail as the little girl who liked to sing." So I guess that stuck. But I started singing opera when I was 16. I have been doing musical theater and just singing all the time, no matter what, but I hadn't been singing opera. When I was 16, my father actually gave me a voice lesson, an operatic voice lesson, for my Hanukkah present. And at my first voice lesson, my teacher said to me, "You know, you could do this as a career." And I didn't believe her, but I loved singing so much that I ended up pursuing it. The next question is, why did you choose to move to Nebraska? Well, the story behind that is actually that my husband got a job out here. So my husband is working out in Nebraska. I can work from anywhere, so I don't need to be in a certain place. And Nebraska turned out to be the best place for the two of us and for him where he got his job. So we are in Nebraska, and it's been really nice. I've got this question. It says, you've talked about lifting before. I'd love to hear about your gym and workout routine. So I do really like to weightlift. Weightlifting is probably my favorite way to exercise. I have had a sketchy past with exercising. I didn't really start exercising until I started dating my husband. My husband is very into weightlifting, and he inspired me to do the same. And also I started running a little bit while I was with him at the beginning. That sort of petered off, but now we're actually working together and running together, which has been really fun. But I have found that weightlifting is the best thing for me because I can see myself getting better and stronger over time. You can see physically, oh, I'm adding 5 pounds to this weight lift or whatever it is. So I like that a lot. But more recently, as we've all been home, I've been doing some exercises on my phone that kind of build on each other over 30 days. I really like that because I can, again, see my progress. That for me is the biggest thing. I like being able to see my progress. And then I try to go for walks every day or go for a run while my husband and I are training together to learn how to run like a 5K or a 10K. I'm not the greatest at working out, so I don't think that I'm like the person you should go to for advice about it. I like working out. My husband is really good at working out, so he's been good with helping me. I think it's important. I think it's important to stay fit and stay healthy, but I'm not the best person to ask. The next question is, what are your top 3 favorite meals to cook, make, and bake? I have a few that I've got in my back pocket, and those are my favorites because I don't have to worry about them. Meat sauce and noodles, or zoodles, are like the easiest thing ever. You just throw that into a pan. I just chop up some onions, brown some meat, add some marinara sauce, maybe throw in some garlic powder, and then I throw in the zoodles, or I boil noodles separately, and that's just the easiest thing ever. And then I'll throw in some broccoli into the oven and bake that with just some garlic powder and paprika, salt, pepper, and olive oil. That's a really easy one. I actually just recently learned how to make ramen, and that's really fun and delicious, and I love that. One of my favorite recipes. And I really like using my Ninja Foodi, which is kind of the equivalent of an Instant Pot, to make a bunch of different things. So recently I've been making Mongolian beef, which was delicious, and stews. Stews are great because, especially in an Instant Pot, you can make them in like an hour and a half, and it's just throwing things in a pot. That's the best thing for me, is like easy stuff you can throw in a pot or throw on the stove. If I have time, I like looking in my cookbooks and taking more time to cook and make something interesting and special, but I don't always have the time. So if I don't, then these recipes are kind of my favorite go-tos. The next question is, how did you get so good at opera, and how did you get into it? So I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but the way I got good at opera was by going to school for it. I have a bachelor degree, a master's, and a professional studies certificate. So I actually studied for 7 years in school, and I didn't know how to read music when I started college for it, which I think is really awesome. But I practiced a lot, and I worked with great teachers, and I really put all of my heart and soul into it. So that's why I got good at it. The way I got into it was that I had been listening to opera for a very long time, and then my dad got me that lesson for Hanukkah, and I just kept practicing and loving it. Like, I would get home from rehearsal at 10 p.m. and I still wanted to practice. It didn't matter. After that, I applied to colleges, and thank God I got a full scholarship to USC, and that's where it all kind of started from. The next question is, do you paint your nails, go to the salon, or keep them natural? I actually keep them natural. I used to go to the salon, but honestly, it's kind of pricey. If I had it in my budget, I would love to go to the salon and get gels. I hate having normal nail polish because I hate how it looks when it chips. It drives me crazy. So I'd rather have clean nails and never have to worry about getting chips on them than have nails that chip all the time. So either gels or do them at home. And lately I've been doing them at home, and I'm very happy with it. I use like a buffer thing, and it makes my nails really shiny, and I love that. If at some point I have it in my budget that I can go to get my nails done, I might do that, but I don't right now. So we're sticking with stay-at-home nails. Someone was asking about the Orthodox rules on modesty, and I mentioned in a video that I was raised Orthodox religious, and there are a lot of different rules about how you should dress as a woman to be modest. And I'm not the expert on all of these things. Of course, I lived it, but there's a lot of different opinions. That's what it's all about. So one of the things is that you would cover your elbows, or you can wear a shirt that comes a fist above your elbow. That's one idea. Another idea is that you should cover your collarbone, or you would have about 4 fingers down from your collarbone. That's an idea. You would wear skirts, although some people say you can wear pants if you wear a longer tunic. There's a lot of different options on how you can dress modestly according to Orthodox Jewish rules. As you guys know, I mentioned this in an earlier video, I'm not keeping those completely right now, so don't look at me as an example. I am keeping kind of basic levels of modesty and not necessarily Orthodox rules. But hopefully in the future, I will be keeping Orthodox rules as my husband and I become more observant. So I had to run over to my vanity because somebody asked what my favorite summertime lipstick is. I brought over 3 to show you guys. So I have this Wet n Wild catsuit, liquid catsuit in Give Me Mocha. This is really all year round. I just really like it because it lasts all day and it's super natural looking. And then if you want something a little bit more glossy, this is kind of the equivalent. It's the liquid catsuit, but it's the high shine lipstick. And this is in Cedar Later. But as you can see, the color is pretty similar. One is just a little bit more shiny, one is long lasting. And then this is a recent favorite that I've been absolutely loving. It's not really a lipstick, but I still like it a lot. And this is the Color and Care Lip Oil in Stick from Almay. Super pretty. This one's rosy glaze, very summery, more like a lip balm mixed with a lipstick and having that together. And it's just like a really pretty pink color. Somebody else asked, who is your favorite opera singer? P.S. I love your musical talent. That's so nice. Thank you so much. So I did mention that Maria Callas is my favorite opera singer, but I have a bunch of favorite opera singers, so I thought I'd mention a few others. Pavarotti. I mean, come on, he's stunning. I love him. Mirella Freni. She has a gorgeous voice. Love her. She was also in a production of La Boheme. And then more modern performers, Jonas Kaufmann. He's an incredible baritone. He's just got a gorgeous voice. And Sandra Rodanovsky. She has a gorgeous, gorgeous tone. Check her out. Love all of them. They're all incredible. There's a lot of beautiful opera singers out there, so yeah. The next question is, as a performer, how do you balance costuming and your modesty standards? That's a really tricky one, so I'm not going to say it's easy. There are times where you're given things to wear that are definitely outside of your comfort zone as far as modesty. I'm a little bit more flexible when it comes to that. In the same way as if you're an Olympic swimmer and you generally are a modest person, but you have to wear a bathing suit out, I wouldn't blame you for that. That's a career thing. Same with operatic stuff, depending on how immodest it gets, right? I think it's definitely a balancing act. It's talking to the director, talking to the costumer, finding something that works for you. Of course, there are actors who do nude scenes. Never going to do that. That is totally immodest in my opinion, and not something that you can really justify. But wearing certain outfits that you might not wear in real life because it goes with the character, I think that sometimes it's okay in that situation. It's for work, and it's not your intention in real life to be drawing attention to yourself, but maybe that's the character's intention. The character wants that kind of immodest look. So if that's what the character needs, then you might need to be a little bit more flexible about it, but it is a fine line. Somebody asked, what's the difference between a trad wife and a classical wife? I have a whole video on that, so I will link that up above. The next question is how to not get jealous of other girls when I'm trying to dress more modestly. I actually love this question. I think this is such a real thing. It's so hard when you want to be dressing a certain way because you feel that it's right for you and you feel that it's right with your relationship with God to not get jealous of other women who might be dressing more immodestly. I totally understand why you would be jealous. I think it comes down to having the self-confidence to know that this is right for you and not comparing yourself to other people. I'm not saying that's easy. I struggle with it. I think every woman struggles with it, but it's knowing what you want, knowing the attention that you want, and knowing that the attention that this other girl might be getting is not necessarily the attention you would want to get. If there's another girl who's getting a lot of attention from guys, just remember it's attention for her body and not for her personality off the bat. And you want to be the kind of person who attracts a man because you look beautiful, and then he'll get to know your personality. You want to attract the right kind of guy, and that's going to show through in the way that you dress. So keeping that in mind, that you'll be dressing for the kind of guy you want, in the same way that you would dress for the job you want, that's going to help you with that kind of jealousy. Also, if you do believe in God and you're dressing modestly for that purpose as well, not just for, yourself, you'll sort of feel a connection with God and this kind of camaraderie with God. And it feels more like, hey, I'm doing this for me and for my relationship with my Creator. And that's kind of a nice thing that you can take pride in. But it is difficult not to get jealous in those situations. And then the other thing you can do just kind of to help with that is having a little immodest outfit that you keep around the house and you just wear for yourself or for your husband, that it's not something you need to share with the world, but you just have it so you can wear it whenever you're feeling a little bit down about it or whatever it is, and you can walk around the house and feel kind of cute and sexy. The next question is, how can I make conservative female friends at an art college? It's tricky, is all I'll say, is that it's tricky. So you may have to find clubs that are specifically designated for people who believe in God or people who come right out and say that they're conservative, but trying to talk about it with other people in your friend group is really tricky because you don't want to alienate people who would be not only friends, but colleagues at work. And that is something that is a very hard line to walk. So I would say finding those groups through other means instead of just saying right out what your views are might be easier. The other part of it is that if you are kind of quiet when political conversations come up, you might start to notice that other people are quiet too. And if they are, then you can kind of start to notice who might be more on the conservative side of the spectrum. So maybe being just aware and trying to keep an eye out would be good. If you could change something in the world, what would it be? Big or small? I would make it so that all delicious things were healthy and all the things that tasted bad were unhealthy. Think about how easy life would be. It would be amazing. A donut, good for you. Can you imagine? That's the dream. Who is someone you look up to in the media? I don't know if you would call this in the media, but I think Nikki Haley is someone to look up to. She's very strong and she's very clear about her opinions and she's not afraid to voice them. And I think that's really cool. What's your relationship like with your brother? It's awesome. We're 10 years apart, so he's 10 years older than I am, but we are really close and we talk pretty frequently, and yeah, he's my brother. I love him. What's been the biggest challenge moving from LA to Nebraska? So I didn't actually go directly from LA to Nebraska. I was in LA growing up, and then I was in New York for 3 years studying music. Then I lived in Virginia for a year with my husband, and then we moved to Nebraska. So I guess the change would be from Virginia to Nebraska, but the biggest change really is just that it's a little bit more isolated than I'm used to. Being on the East Coast or the West Coast, things are just closer to each other, and the closest really major city is 8 hours away. So that's not something I'm super used to. When you're on the West Coast, you can drive a couple of hours and you're doing a day trip somewhere cool. And if you're on the East Coast, I mean, you can pretty much drive anywhere in any amount of time. Everything's pretty close together. Here, there's Kansas City, which is a big city, but it's not a huge one. And then there's Chicago. So it's just kind of alone. And then our families are spread out, so we don't get to see people as often as we would like. Especially right now, that makes things a little bit tricky. But the thing I love about Nebraska is just how easy everything is. Life is easy out here. It's not expensive to live out here. You can get pretty much anywhere in 15 minutes. I mean, that's the high end. And the people here are super nice and warm, and you never have to worry about offending anyone. It's pretty great. Who is one of the most influential people in my life? I would say my mother. I love my mom. She's my best friend. She's also my role model. I'm really close to her and she gives me great advice, and I love that I can go to her when things are good or bad, and she always has something to say. I'm a huge proponent of women being close to their moms. I think that they can offer really good insights into their life, and I'm really lucky that I have such a good relationship with mine. What kind of books do I enjoy? Well, I love fiction. I love sci-fi. I've been trying to read more books that are historical. I like books that are historical but are written sort of like fiction. As I think I've mentioned in a few videos, I really like Eric Larson. He has a lot of books that feel like you're not reading history, but it's great. I love that. I mean, I tend to read a lot of classics. I like the classics a lot. They're well written. I think something that I struggle with is that classics take a long time to read. So you hear people say, I've read 50 books this year, and I'm like, what kind of books though? Because if it's not a classic, you can maybe read it in a week, but classics usually take a little bit longer, especially when you're working and you want to spend time with your family. That's the one thing about reading that I'm not the biggest fan of, is that it's a little bit of a solitary activity. And if I'm going to have time off, I like to be spending that with my husband. One of the things we've been doing to remedy that is listening to audiobooks, and I absolutely love listening to audiobooks with him. It's been really nice. Any advice for college-aged women? Yes. What I'll say is that you're probably experiencing a lot of pressure to drink, dress a little bit more immodestly, hang out with guys in an immodest way, act actually more immaturely, and just experiment. You'll regret that. Don't do it. Try and stay strong with your morals, and if you feel like you're struggling, talk to someone. Talk to your mom, talk to your friends. Make good friends who aren't going to pressure you into those things. And just remember that even though people act like college is a crazy time for crazy experiences, it is a formative time in your life where maybe you could even meet the guy you're gonna marry. So try and keep that in mind. Don't fall into the trap of partying it up at college. It's not worth it. The next question is, what's your skincare routine? So I actually have a video about that. I'll link that above. And it's pretty much the same from the last time I talked about it. I usually use Neutrogena stuff. I'm pretty simple when it comes to that. And I use a couple of topical creams from a dermatologist because I used to struggle with acne, and that was a big thing for me. So I do love talking about skin because I worked really hard to get to the place where I'm at now with my skin, but I understand how hard it can be when you're struggling with acne or you have acne-prone skin. So I totally understand the struggle, and I am a huge proponent of chatting about it and not feeling ashamed of how your skin looks, because I get it. It's really hard. Where do you get your beauty and fashion inspiration? I love the classic stuff. Audrey Hepburn has always been one of my absolute favorites. She is gorgeous. I think she's stunning. And as far as now, I would say the Royals, Kate Middleton. She looks beautiful and very classic, very modern, but still looks really modest. I love her fashion sense. And for makeup, there are a bunch of YouTubers that I watch. I really like Jessica Braun. She's somebody I've started watching more recently, and I really like her videos. Much more on the fun and natural side, not like crazy dramatic. And I've always really liked Kathleen Lights. I think that she's really friendly and inviting, and I really like her channel. So that's probably where I get my beauty stuff currently. Opera question. Do you actually know the various languages you're singing in? Yes. I don't know them all fluently, but I've taken classes in all of them. I speak Italian, French, German, Russian, Hebrew, and English. Obviously, English is my native language, and Hebrew I studied in Jewish day schools. And I don't speak any of them fluently, but I can read them, and I can understand the structure of words if I don't know it off the bat. I also can look up the vocabulary, but I understand what I'm saying when I'm singing. I don't ever sing something and not know what I'm saying, because then how do you act that? And acting is such a huge part of how I like to perform. So yes, I do know all the languages that I'm singing in. Next up is, how do you deal with hateful comments on your videos and posts? Here's what it comes down to. I don't really read them. I see them, I delete them so other people don't have to suffer through it, and then I delete them. I know that the people who are writing them don't know me and don't even really care about my content. They're just kind of there to be trolls. So it doesn't really bother me at the end of the day. I know people talk about it like they really struggle with it, and I can understand why, but I'm lucky enough that the people who are commenting hateful things aren't really watching my content, so they're not really saying anything that would bother me. And if someone disagrees with me, I don't consider that hateful. Hateful comments are just annoying. They don't really bother me. They are what they are, and you just kind of leave them to the side. What can I add to my bedroom to make it more classic? I love that question. I used to dream about being an interior designer. If it's just your bedroom, you can go a little bit more feminine and girly. Of course, if you're married, then you might need to take your husband into account. But if it's just you for the moment, put up some twinkly lights. I love my twinkly lights. They make me so happy. And having some fake plants and flowers so you don't have to worry if they die. If you have a green thumb, have real ones, absolutely. But if you don't want to worry about it, then having some fake flowers around makes it super pretty. And then having some candles. I like wood in the bedroom. I think it looks really nice. Whether that be painted white or a wood look, I think it looks beautiful. And then sticking within a color palette. I, of course, will always recommend white and navy blue, nautical, very calming, and putting up a little bit of wall art. Don't leave your walls bare. Make sure that they look warm and comfortable, and just make your room a place you love to be. How many kids do you want? Anytime soon? I would like 3 or 4. I think my husband would always like more, but I think we're gonna end up with 3 or 4. We'll see what happens. And anytime soon? Hopefully. We're thinking about soon-ish, but we'll see what ends up happening. And yeah, it's very much in our future plans. Advice for looking elegant while wearing flats or low heels? Yes. Just look at Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn wore flats in most of her movies because she's pretty tall and they didn't want her towering over her male partner. So what I would suggest is wearing cigarette pants with flats. Looks so nice. And it looks beautiful with skirts. Wearing flats looks great with skirts. The only length it doesn't look good at is like 3 inches below the knee. That doesn't look great, but if you wear a T-length skirt, beautiful with flats. And if you wear one that's like right at the knee, beautiful with flats. So you can absolutely look beautiful and lovely wearing flats or a low heel, and it'll just look very Audrey Hepburn-esque. Oh my gosh, there are a ton more questions, but we're gonna have to save that for another video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Please let me know in the comments if you want me to do a part 2. I had so much fun answering your guys' questions. You had such good ones. And leave in the comments down below if you have any other questions or what you thought of my answers to this one. I'd love to hear. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Please subscribe to my channel and blog if you haven't already. Head over to my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook and follow me there. Please hit that like button, hit that notification bell to get notified of all my new videos. Please head over to classicallyabby.locals.com if you'd like to support my channel, see more of this content, and be part of our community. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!